I didn't believe that Jesus was God. Even though one has to believe that, it was a real struggle for me. And I used to always ask a lot of questions, but I felt guilty. I felt guilty for asking those questions. I felt guilty for not necessarily believing in it. I was worried about changing my religion. My love for Isa alayhi salam, I didn't have to lose that to become a Muslim. If anything, it now was stronger.
Sister Cynthia, thank you very much for coming this morning to see us.
Thank you for having me.
You came all the way from the Asian side, right, of Istanbul.
I did.
Yeah. Now, tell me, how did you know about Islam? What made you interested in it?
Well, to be honest, for the beginning of my life, I didn't know anything about Islam. I never met a Muslim. I was born and raised Catholic. I was part of the Catholic Church. I went to Catholic school all of my life. Everyone I knew was Catholic.
That was in San Francisco?
Correct, yes. And then at the age of 17, my mother fell ill with cancer, and she ended up passing a year later. And it was at that time that it really sparked my interest into my own religion, and then therefore into other religions. But going back as a child, I always kind of struggled with being a Catholic in the sense that I didn't believe that Jesus was God. Even though one has to believe that, it was a real struggle for me. And I used to always ask a lot of questions, but I felt guilty. I felt guilty for asking those questions. I felt guilty for not necessarily believing in it. So after my mother passed, I decided to look into my own religion, and I went and met with my priest, and I asked him some questions, and the answers I got didn't satisfy me. They were basically, I had to just believe.
What did you ask him?
I asked him, about believing in Jesus being God, and my questions about that, and different questions in the faith. And he told me that I needed to just believe, and that part of being a Christian is following blindly, and to have firm faith in my heart, and this is all coming from the devil, and that I wasn't going to get the answers that I was looking for.
So you went looking elsewhere.
Exactly. It left me with more questions. So I looked into Judaism, and that also left me with a lot of questions. I read Siddhartha, and I looked into Buddhism. Also a lot of questions. And at the same time, I for the first time had met people of other faiths in university. And one of them at the time was my husband. He wasn't my husband then, but he was somebody I had met amongst other people.
A fellow student.
A fellow student who was raised Muslim, but not raised with the deen. He didn't really know what it was to be Muslim. So he himself was curious, and he was meeting people who had become Muslim. And he thought, how are these people who are becoming Muslim know more about Islam than I do, if that makes sense?
Where did he come from?
San Francisco as well.
He was born there?
Yes, born and raised in San Francisco. So, but anyways, he ended up leaving and went to Lebanon to kind of learn about his culture and then his religion and study it. And so as I was learning about the different religions, I decided that I wanted to also learn about Islam. So I had asked somebody I had met, this lady, and I said, where can I learn about Islam? And she said, oh, I'll tell you. She said, you have to go on Sundays to this one place, and there's a class starting called Introduction to Islam. So I said, okay. It was an hour away by drive. So I went, and I walked into this small little room, and it was Sheikh Hamzة Yusuf, who at the time nobody knew who Sheikh Hamzة Yusuf was. And he was teaching Introduction to Islam. So I started taking his class. And for the first time, things made sense. mashallah, he was explaining things from a religious component and also from a historical component. And so my questions that I had were being answered. And it also felt like what I believed as a Christian in terms of my love for Isa alayhi salam, I didn't have to lose that to become a Muslim. If anything, it now was stronger.
He's venerated in Islam anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but at the same time, as I was exploring my religion, I had just, gone through a traumatic experience of losing my mother. I was not living the most wholesome lifestyle. And I was surrounded by a lot of people who were partying and alcohol and these things. So I remember that we had gone away for a little vacation with some friends. And I was sitting there one night and everyone's drinking and dancing and doing what they're doing. And I thought, no, I don't want this. This is not the lifestyle I want. I don't want to live like this. So that night I went to sleep and I had a dream. And in my dream, for the first time, I dreamt of my mother, who had passed about a year and a half now since then. And in my dream, I walk into the living room of my home and she's sitting there in a black abaya with a black hijab holding a tesbih.
Subhanallah.
And I looked closely to make sure it was a tesbih and not a rosary because she was a strong Catholic. And then I woke up. And I think for me, that was a gift from Allah because I think subconsciously I was worried about changing my religion, being raised as a Catholic. And now I was going to become a Muslim. And how could I do that? And this was confirmation that I was making the right decision. At least for me, that's what it meant. So the next day, I asked my friends to drop me off at this little Islamic school. I didn't want them to see it, so I had them drop me off at this car lot. I walked in. First person I saw, I said, I need to become Muslim right now.
How many lessons had you attended by then?
I think about 6 or 7. So I didn't know enough, but I knew enough, if that makes sense. I knew for me, I had conviction in my heart that I needed to become Muslim. And I felt that urgency to do it. And then the journey really began.
Now, what about your acquaintances, family, friends? Have they taken any certain decision?
Alhamdulillah, I was blessed in that my aunts who are, Catholic, and they at first they didn't like it. They had a lot of questions. And it really is the way that you live your life gives an example of that what you're doing is correct. And so I think they saw that how I was now living my life, the decisions I was making, it really showed them that I was actually a better person than I was before. And interestingly, about 2 years after I became Muslim, on Christmas, they sent me a present. They would always send me Christmas presents. But 2 years after I became Muslim, they sent me a hijab.
As a present.
As a present. And for me, I thought, okay, they understood. They accepted it. My father didn't have a problem. My sister was fine with it. And I have friends. One of my closest friends is actually someone who I've known since I was 13. And she's been the biggest supporter of me becoming Muslim.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
So no real challenges? Or were there challenges?
No, not really. If I have, to be honest, not from my family and friends. I mean, as a new Muslim, you struggle with just understanding your identity and putting on the hijab at some point. And, all of that is difficult. But no, I didn't have a lot of challenges that other people have had.
And how about the Muslim community? I mean, what there must have been a Muslim community around you.
Yeah, but there was, and there is. But at the time, it was a lot of people who were converts. And so it wasn't something new. And I didn't feel the need to change who I was to now all of a sudden become not only Muslim, but Arab, or not only Muslim, but Pakistani, or not only Muslim. I didn't have to lose my identity, if that makes sense. And that was a blessing.
Now we're talking about what, 1998?
Yes.
That's when you converted?
Yes.
Yeah, by then I think so many people were entering into Islam everywhere.
There are a lot of people entering Islam, exactly. Yeah.
It used to be a lot more difficult in the 70s or in the 60s. So some of the people I interviewed who are from that era, it used to be rare, or they used to feel lonely after conversion. You didn't feel lonely?
I mean, at times I did, of course, just trying to navigate. Everything was new, trying to understand how do I, live my life as a new Muslim, and not having family. That was hard. That was Muslim, and learning all of that, of course. But alhamdulillah, the community grew and grew, and I planted roots in that community. And so they became my family in that sense.
How many years did you spend in San Francisco after conversion before you came here?
Well, we moved around a little bit starting in 2016. So from 1998 to 2016, we lived in the Bay Area.
So that's about 20 years, 2 decades.
2 decades, yes.
What made you come to Istanbul?
We had visited Istanbul, and I loved it. It's a beautiful city, mashallah. But my husband, in 2018, he got cancer. Alhamdulillah, he's okay now. But it definitely changed our life. He no longer could work. And then when he started to feel better, COVID hit. Yeah. And now he really couldn't work. We had a small business. And at the time, my eldest son, had gotten married. He studies the Islamic sciences and a calligraphy. And so he had moved to Turkey. And his wife was pregnant. So our first grandson was going to be born here. My daughter got into a university in Turkey. It just seemed like the right thing to do. So we decided to come here and kind of be as a whole family and really live here and benefit from this place.
So the whole family is now here, based in Turkey?
No. We go back and forth, actually, quite a bit. But no, my kids are now older and they've moved on. So most of my kids do not live here anymore. And just one does now.
Were you at all impacted upon by Islamophobic or anti-Islamic media coverage or things of this sort, or you didn't go through any of such experience?
I did in America, sure, because for a lot of Americans, I'm a traitor. I became Muslim, and if they have a problem with Islam, here I am, somebody who's to them very American, in terms of the way I look, the way I act, the way I speak, everything. And now I've become a Muslim. And if they have an issue with that, then they look at me as a traitor, which I'm not, obviously. So, of course, post 9/11, and definitely you could feel it.
Strange enough, if a Westerner converts to Hinduism or to Buddhism, that's not considered to be treason. It's just when it comes to Islam, isn't it?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I think that's probably because of the historic package that people carry with them and what they inherit of perception about the deen and its followers.
It's a lack of education, but to a degree, it's not necessarily people's fault. Also, it's what they've been taught. I mean, for 18 years of my life, I only knew Catholics. I never met a Jewish person, a Muslim, a Buddhist. That's all I knew. So what I was being told in school, by my parents, by the media, by everything, that shaped my opinions. So that's the same for a lot of people. So they don't know. They're not educated in terms of, understanding that it's not what you're being told necessarily. It's different. And actually you have a lot of similarities.
How about challenges facing you as a teacher? Because you worked as a teacher. And what was it, a public school or a private school? No,
it was more of a private school setting for Muslims. So I haven't.
So that no problem there.
I haven't not.
You did not have an encounter with the general public.
No, no. But of course, as a parent with my children, raising kids in the West, sure. You encounter it with other people. When my son was playing baseball and I go to the baseball game and immediately, they see me with my hijab, they have a problem, or they hear my son's name, they have they automatically think a certain thing. So you encounter it in that sense.
But isn't it changing now? I mean, people's attitudes, or are they still the same? I mean, you travel to San Francisco from time to time.
Yeah,
Do you sense any change?
I do sense a change. Yeah, people, it has changed quite a bit in a good way. But it also means that it's this idea that anything is okay, and it's a slippery slope, But yes, for sure, I don't feel so much of that hatred that at one point I did when my kids were little.
And what about after the war on Gaza? Have you been to America since then?
Yes, of course. But I mean, I'm from San Francisco. San Francisco is a very liberal.
It's an open city.
It's an open city. It's a lot of educated people there, and they're aware of what's happening. So I haven't had any problems.
Have you been to any of the Arab or Muslim countries apart from Turkey?
I have several. Alhamdulillah, I've completed my Hajj and done Umrah. So I've gone to Saudi Arabia, visited the Emirates. We spent some time in Mauritania, actually for about a year. Was in Jordan for a little bit. I visited Lebanon, Egypt, Morocco. So several different.
Were there instances where you felt disappointed with the Muslims? I mean, because you search for Islam yourself, and then you go to a Muslim country and see how Muslims live. Were there instances where you felt a bit disappointed or shocked?
I mean, cleanliness is close to godliness, and we want to be clean people and live, and that's how we should have our home. And that's something I love about Turkey. Mashallah, Turkish people are extremely clean. The city is clean.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you go to some Arab countries and, the garbage can is there and it's half empty and it's surrounded around garbage. Doesn't take a lot to put it in the can, but it's this idea that it doesn't matter. That didn't sit well with me. I do think I did see racism, unfortunately, as well, which is not from our tradition. So certain aspects, but a lot of it is also culture, and it's people have to just learn over time.
Yeah, it's mostly culture. It's not that they are practicing Islam.
But when you don't know this, let's say, then you associate it with Islam, and that's the problem. But the more that you spend time in countries, you realize you can separate what's culture and really what is Islam. And so initially but I've learned.
Maybe in your case, you've had the opportunity to learn enough about Islam before you visited Muslim countries. Was this the case?
I think so. I think so. I think that, yeah, definitely. So it gave me a more understanding, an empathetic approach to it, and really being able to see that, okay, this is just the way this culture is. And it's not an indicator of Islam.
What about the Arabic language? Did you have a try with it?
I have learned a little bit. I've tried to learn more, but when I was actually enrolled in a program, then something happened and I had to stop. So I know very little Arabic. I can understand a little bit. That's about it. I would love to learn more, because the more that I do learn about, learn Arabic words and their meanings, the more that it really is like an ocean, mashallah. And it's just like a beautiful language that's able to describe, things in such depth that you don't understand unless you speak it.
Yeah.
So, and it's very eloquent. I love it, but no, I haven't learned very much of it.
Yeah, the problem with language, with any language, is that you need to practice it.
Yes.
And to practice it, you need to live in a community that speaks it around you.
Yes.
But now here you're in Turkey. Are you learning Turkish?
I am learning Turkish. Little by little, I am learning Turkish. So, and inshallah, I hope one day to be fluent in the Turkish language, but we'll see.
How do you find the Turkish community around you?
For the most part, it's great. I like it. There are a lot of expats here, and obviously, you are, it's like a magnet. You go to people that so the expats connect and they spend time with each other, And that's blessing that there are so many here. But as well as the Turkish people, you know, the ones that I've gotten to know, they're amazing, mashallah. And I've been welcomed into their homes and into their lifestyles and really gotten to know them on a deeper level, even without having the same language. I mean, it's amazing how the hearts connect and you can have a real relationship with people without speaking the same language. So yeah, I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about Turkish culture and Turkish people in general.
Well, Sister Cynthia, may Allah bless you and bless your family. And thank you very much again for coming to see us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.